Welcome, everybody, to Integrate Yourself. I'm your host, Allison Pillow, and today I'm here with my special guest, Rosanne Grace. She's been on before. She's one of my good friends, and I'm really excited to have her back on the show. We're going to talk about some really interesting, really fun things today. And what I love about talking to Rosanne is that she really brings me out of a certain box of reality where there are things that we do in our daily life where we're always, to some extent it's good. We have things that we can rely on, a foundation of reality that we can rely on. But I think it's also important to step out of that box on occasion. And if you want to call it your imagination, you can tap into that a little bit better by maybe looking into some things that we may not fully understand scientifically all the way yet. But again, they're just things that are unknown. And I think honestly that those things are part of life. No matter how we want to think about it, we're always going to be coming across things that are just truly unknown in the world. So the more I think that you can become comfortable with that kind of thing and kind of have fun with it, and maybe use it as a tool to understand yourself better, I think is, for me, the way to go. And I don't know how you feel about that, Rosanna, but you just have because I just love talking to you. It's so much fun, and we have the best conversations, and we're always like on the same page, like
Yeah.
I'll quickly say, because one of these versions always goes up on the podcast, which is just the audio version. And I always have a nice intro for that. But for the YouTube version, I don't usually have that same intro. So I'm going to give you a little intro and just kind of tell everybody, just in case they didn't see the last episode, who you are, Rosanne. And you can also do that too when I get you on. But you're an Ascension advisor, a holistic practitioner, a metaphysical coach, and she's a quantum healing hypnosis coach as well. And she, as an Ascension advisor and metaphysical coach, she has successfully connected and guided thousands of clients to their higher self, inner child, divine intelligence of the physical body and their true source consciousness to facilitate the deepest, easiest, and most graceful healing and integration possible. And that could not have described it any better. So welcome to the show, Rosanne. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my beautiful sister. I appreciate always to connect with you and getting to share this information. And yes, as Allison said, we are usually vibing and feeling certain energies and certain themes and certain things in our lives, personally and professionally, and being able to talk about that and share that. And I really feel a lot of that is being asked of us as light workers, or um, that's probably the best word I can come up with, because it's different than it's different than just being a practitioner and or a teacher or a guide. It is another calling where, you know, Alice and I have both seen this and been gifted those visions of sharing more publicly, sharing more um, intimate information, or maybe, like she said, out of the box information that some people aren't familiar with or necessarily comfortable with. But it is bringing an expanded awareness and consciousness to this planet, and we are the embodiments of that. And so the more that we speak these truths and these experiences, the more comfortable it is for others to experience them and also share their truths. And you're not alone. If I meet all kinds of people from all walks of life, and many of them will start with the session and tell me, this may sound crazy. I'm like, oh no, there's nothing you could tell me that would
You've
create
heard it
any.
all.
I've
Yeah.
heard it or seen it or I've done it. So yes, ask away.
Well, if you can just quickly describe what you do, Rosanne, and how you work with people before we get started, just to give everyone some context in case they didn't listen to the last show.
Absolutely. So it's perfect, because when you were speaking about that, it reminded me I had a couple new clients this week and one earlier today, and she was asking, well, how does this work? And I said, basically, in a nutshell, I tap into and communicate with your higher self, you can call it your oversoul, your soul, just that higher aspect of your own consciousness. I can speak to the divine intelligence of your physical body, and I primarily love speaking to your inner child because I say they're the ones that hold the key. you want you want access.
Yes.
Excuse me. You want access. You got to go through them. So they're like the bouncer at the gate. And if they're not happy, you're not happy. So if you don't liberate them, you can't yourself be liberated. So through intuitive coaching, channeling, a lot of muscle testing, just for those confirmations for the client. And like I said, I ask for that divine guidance. So it's not my ego or my personal agenda. I want to serve them in the highest and greatest good. And so their inner child or their higher self knows exactly where that is and where to guide me and where to lead. Because if just because I can receive information or hear something about that client that would be helpful or relevant in their healing, they personally may not be ready to receive that yet. And so, always deferring to those divine aspects of that person to navigate appropriately. And, like you said, as easy and graceful as possible, because my transformation was hella hard. And I said it was a bloody mess. And source, I call it source consciousness or the divine source, said you needed to know what disgrace was so you could learn grace. And so by paradox, I needed to know what transformational and a very yang, very like rip the band-aids off kind of attitude was, which was super painful and uncomfortable and definitely not graceful. So I could learn to step more into my divine feminine in my personal healing, as well as offering that for clients that were showing up in front of me.
Yeah, and you've been doing this for a long time, so you've had a lot of practice, both on
Yes.
yourself and with other people, and have helped a lot of people. And I'm one of those people as well. I've done a few sessions with you and gone to your retreat, and it was very powerful. So, and you know what I like about what you do, Rosanne, is that you do it with grace, and you are very respectful for what the amount and kind of information, I guess, that someone can is ready for,
Yeah.
because you're right, it's not always the person's, just because it's there, just because the information is there, doesn't mean the person is ever is always ready to receive it.
Yeah.
So
Not at that moment. Sometimes you're right.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, you and I kind of follow each other through social media. We message
Mhm.
sometimes and we kind of keep in contact that way. And so I've been noticing a lot. You and I were talking, and you've been talking about this information you've been getting about what's kind of to come for 2020.
Mhm.
I have been noticing a lot, like you and I talked before we started today about there's this spiritual movement of younger people coming in that are much more kind of further on than maybe we
Yeah.
started out as far as their understanding of everything and how energy works and all the unknown
Yeah.
things in the world and these kinds of things is not so, I guess, three-dimensional. Maybe we're coming into some other ways of looking at reality that are different, or being able to perceive them this way now that we couldn't before.
Correct.
And it's interesting because I think if you're just going about your life and not really paying attention so much, you might not notice some of these things. But I read this book years ago. I think it's called Beyond 2012 or something like that. And I can't remember. I'll reference the book on the show notes, but it talked about all this thing about stepping into fifth dimension reality, which sounds really kind of kooky when you say it out loud. Some people may think, what the heck is that?
Mhm.
But it sounded like that when I read it. I was like, this sounds really interesting and really cool, but I cannot even imagine how this is going to pan out. But
Yeah.
as we step into 2020, I can start to see it's really about like how we are seeing ourselves. It really comes down to like our inner work, right? And how we're perceiving the world from the inside out. And then we're able to see things differently in our external world. And maybe the things externally are, there's more things that are possible now
Mhm.
externally because we have changed our internal world. So that's kind of what I'm seeing that's happening. And
Totally.
we're getting more access to that than we ever have before. So the potential is big right now.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I totally agree, and we'll add on to that, as a because as I was initiated and evolved, and my consciousness continued to expand, as everyone's will. This isn't like something special for me. This is just something I've dedicated, daily to practicing. And as a physical transformational coach, as Allison is, the more consistent, the more progress. And so I've progressed rather quickly over the past 10 years that I've dedicated myself to this. And so I can see and hear a lot more beyond the limitations of the third dimensional reality, we'll say. And yes, it does sound a little odd, but everything that Allison just mentioned is actually very true. What she was talking about when referencing that book, from that point of consciousness, how is it possible to experience an elevated state, or what some people call the fifth dimension, which is just um, more of a higher vibration state of consciousness compared to this density of the third dimension, or this particular earth reality. So from that point, when she discovered that book, and I'm using Allison as an example because she won't mind,
I don't mind.
I could totally, I was the same way. Like, you talked to the version of me 10 years ago, she would have been like, she crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. And even when I had that awareness, I still was exactly what you said. Like, well, how is that possible? That's such a far jump and leap and paradigm shift, and completely foreign to my way of thinking or being or understanding or knowing at that time. Well, we've been getting a lot of help as well. So it's not something that we are all, trucking on our own over here. We have a lot of energetic and multidimensional help, cosmic help. So you have, some people will call them guides or guardians, soul family, star family. There's angelics. There's more than just us in even in this reality that is contributing and participating with us. You have elemental energies, and I know Allison lives in a beautiful part of the world, and out on those hikes there's other energy that is not found in the cities. So the energy is prevalent. Energy is everything. Everything is energy. Your energy, thoughts are energy, your couch is energy. It's all consciousness. And so being able to utilize that extra assistance that has been coming in for the past several years, and it's definitely accelerating and amping up. And so what I was sharing with Allison before we started the show was these influxes of energy have contributed to us raising our vibration, to expanding that consciousness, to being able to see or hear or know or have that awareness that, yes, I can change my frequency like that. I can manifest, or I can just by shifting your mood or shifting your perception. Really, that was the key word that you used for sure, Allison. It's perception, because it's a whole half glass, half empty, it's no different.
Right.
It's, you know, um, my partner's scooter doesn't start in the morning. I was like, oh, there's some interfering energies. Let me clear it. And he's like, oh, it was just cold.
See,
Perception.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't, and you can look at it either way and it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
Neither
matter.
right, neither's wrong. But
Yeah, I kind of feel like just go to in the direction that makes you feel the best, like if that's how you want to see it, cool.
yeah,
Um, and
it is a
I
comfort
think,
level.
yeah, exactly. And I think the manifestation, the rate of that things are happening now as far as manifestation goes, uh, it definitely has made a jump. I've just noticed personally. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. I know you probably have, but I mean, if you compare it now to the 80s and think about how, and you think, I mean, yeah, we have the internet now. Things are much faster perceptually because yes, we have everything around us that's much faster. But if you think about how long things would take to manifest in the 80s compared to
Yeah,
now, geez, I
yeah,
mean, it's not
yeah.
even a
You
comparison.
can't even compare. Mm-mm.
No. So that's what I'm talking about. Like there is this, and then if you think about all the new agey stuff is just so out of date from then too, in that era,
Hmm.
the 90s era. And
Yeah.
there's just, it's a different, whole different ball
Yes.
game now, you know?
It is different paradigms for sure, different belief systems. More ancient knowledge is showing up, more um, esoteric, more like universal truths, and like you mentioned, these younger people, I say they're quite ancient souls. They're way older than us. So I just had a couple like super powerful light beings, and I'm gonna guess they were like maybe 20 if they were a day. Like they looked young.
Yeah.
So aware, and like I said, energy doesn't lie. They just come in clean. They just have this beautiful, clean, sharp, bright energy. And that's why we embodied, and that's why these younger, children, again, I use that loosely, they are they're ancient souls, they're master teachers, and they are here to help. Again, from the inside out, we get, energy coming into our system, into the planet, into our consciousness, to help with our upgrades or our adapting or our evolution, whatever you want to call it, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intuitively. But we also cultivate from inside, and like Allison said, from the internal world experience to the external world. So healing from the inside, that's what we took on the physical, because I didn't understand that. I didn't really like being in my physical body very much. I was really good at taking off until I was kind of like forced back in. And that's really when that deeper integration happened. And that's true for all integrative work, whether it's, physical work or even conscious work. Is something you want to learn something. It's like you can read it, but if you don't integrate that knowledge or that wisdom or that new philosophy or idea, then poof, it's gone. It just passes you by. So having this physical vessel and this beautiful being that came here to anchor the light from the inside out. So if the earth is its own like paradigm or context, then we're the content that came in to help like break open those old beliefs or those limitations. Like you said, what we believed in the 80s is, God knows, is completely different than what we and our
Yeah.
hairstyles. I mean,
Everything. Oh my
I had
God.
way big hair in the 80s. Yes, and
Yeah,
so
me too.
to see that. So much has shifted and changed just in our own awareness and our own knowingness and our own beingness, and that's only going to progress, and that's only going to gain more momentum. And this whole paradigm shift has been occurring for a number of years, and with more, like Allison said, with more of these souls coming on the scene, it's becoming more rapid. And that whole 100th monkey, you've
Yeah.
heard about that, where
Yeah.
it's you hit that tipping point, and then talking about fifth dimension becomes like talking about, going to the grocery store. I mean,
Yeah.
starts to become mainstream. And so um, that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to help usher
Well,
that in. We're called the
this
first wavers.
that's awesome. I love it. Well, let's have some fun, Roseanne.
Okay.
So what is can you explain to people, my audience, what the fifth dimension is? Maybe talk about the fourth dimension too, and the third dimension. Just kind of talk about like those concepts.
Mhm.
Because I don't know that. I mean, we hear that, but we're like, well, okay, what does that really mean? You know?
Sure. Sure. So third dimension is basically, we'll call it standardized Earth. Like everybody follows the same regimen, belief systems, religion, programs, schooling, um, pay your taxes, buy a house, get a dog. Those are very basic, fundamental programs of Earth. You are born, you get old, you die. That's been the protocol. Basically, if you look at it as like a computer program, that computer program hasn't been upgraded in a while. We're going
Hmm.
through major upgrades. So many people are already in the fourth dimension. So those of us that can perceive beyond the third dimension, like you and I were talking about,
Oh, okay.
something chaotic is happening, but you're like, well, that's not in my field of awareness. That doesn't trigger me. That doesn't create fear in me. That means you're already in the fourth dimension. So there is many of us already operating out of that. When we go into dream time meditation, we can go into the fifth and higher. So we're trying to bridge that gap where we don't have to leave our bodies to experience that in a deep meditation or hypnosis or sleeping or dreaming. We can actually um, experience that like we're experiencing the 3D now.
Hmm. Would that be the same as someone on an ayahuasca trip as well? Like that, would you be in that fifth dimension of
It
reality?
can be. My experience with ayahuasca was not so much any dimension. It was more like universal truths
Mm.
or knowledge. And though I do have clients that have experienced um, different lives on ayahuasca, they've seen star families, they've communicated with animals. So you are tapping into that multidimensionality, and every experience is different, obviously. But in hypnosis, like when my clients go into the fifth earth or 5D, fifth dimension, also people call it the new earth, because it's like it's an elevated version. So what they've shared in these sessions were distinctions. I'll give you distinctions. 3D earth, you have a job, you have money. 5D earth, no job, no money. If you do something, it's because you love doing it.
It's what
You're
lights you up. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
If you want to wait tables, it's because you like being of service. It's not because you're scrambling for tips.
Hmm.
And that was very clear.
But you're
Uh,
also secure though, right? You're
yeah,
very
they're
secure. Yeah.
very secure because there's no lack, there's no want, there's no duality. So duality is light and shadow, good and bad, right and wrong. That's also very much ingrained in the third dimension reality. Fifth
Is that
dimension does not
different
have
than polarity? Is duality different than
polarity
polarity?
is similar.
Similar?
Yeah,
Okay. All
very,
right.
very similar.
Yeah.
So with that, you don't have that. You don't have, like in fifth dimension there, you don't have night and day. You have, like they call it the golden hour.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a beautiful um, glow constantly, because you don't age. You don't have to go through that cycle as well. So if you want to be 28 years old permanently, you get to be 28. You want to have a full head of hair, or you want to, you love.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you get to be healthy or youthful, or whatever size or shape that you prefer in your body, what feels comfortable. It feels looser. It's effortless. and
Mm.
and the density, the third dimension density is hard on the body. You know what that's like. You're an
Hmm.
athlete.
Yeah.
It's gravity. And so the concepts are different. So like time is a different concept there. They don't have that linear time. They don't have the illusion of time as a construct in the fifth dimension. You don't have, so space and time are technically illusions. So if they want to travel, they don't have to get in the car and drive. They can think, I want to go to Allison's house, and they go to Allison's house. So
Wow.
that's more, you have more of your sixth sense abilities. So more telepathy, clairvoyance. You don't have to talk. What was cute, and I love that I get to share this, because I'm going to do because it was such a long session, I have to break it up, and I really want to share this publicly. And so I'm actually sharing on your show first time.
Oh,
No one
wow.
shared this with anybody. This just, so a lot of these sessions just happened recently over the weekend, and the whole lunar energy and new moon. And so um, they have underwater ships, not submarines, not boats, but they are like capsules or vessels that if you do want to go across to another country, you can travel almost like a high-speed train, but this is more like
Yeah.
underwater spaceship.
So is this kind of a timeline of the future? Is this something that is already happening
It's
or?
technically, yeah, in the quantum
Yeah.
field, there is no past, present, or future. It's all now. So technically it already exists. To ask for more of us, third dimensional beings, to access that, we collectively have to raise the energy on the planet. So that's why you're being called to share on these podcasts. That's why we're being called um, to host others or support others or work in the healing arts. I mean, light workers are
Yeah.
being lit up all over the planet with the same guidance and the same mission, because we have to do it from the inside out, and it's been this way for so long that there's definitely people that aren't choosing to, and that's okay. They will stay in more of a third dimensional reality, whereas those that are choosing will get to experience more of a fifth dimensional reality. They also said presence. You want to get there right now, you have to drop every story and be completely present, which is super hard for the human
Oh my God.
at this stage. At
Yeah.
this stage, yeah, to be completely unattached and poof, yeah, that's um, it's very
It's like
very
being in
overwhelming for
Hawaii.
people. Yeah.
I feel like
Oh, they said
Hawaii,
you can
Hawaii is a
choose. Yeah,
fifth dimension.
that is
It's-
definitely that
yeah,
is very much its own vortex, and it is
it does feel that way. It feels like, well, they have a
yes,
saying called Hawaiian time. So it's like
yes,
time there does feel very different.
different, yes, and that
Yeah.
is Hawaii. Like certain parts of the world are already. That's just because of the energy they exude and the people
Hmm.
holding the space of that energy, and that is very ancient. You know, the ancient Hawaiian culture that is already residing completely in fourth dimension and has access to fifth, depending on certain alignments, whether that's human alignments, star alignments, things like that. So when we get these gateways and these portals, these openings, that brings in more energy. And so um, it's also can be challenging on the system because the human body is the most dense part. So even though you had this awesome meditation, or you tapped in, or you did a ceremony, or you know, healing retreat, whatever it was, and you accessed it, now your consciousness got it, has a grasp on it. Now it's integrating it, and your body's like, what am we doing?
Yeah.
Like that,
So
I'm not
that's
used to
why,
that.
yeah, and I've noticed that too, and that's why I think that it's important to be grounded in your body, and like that's why I like teaching what I teach, because I
Yeah.
teach people, all the self-care skills they need for being more calm in their body and being able to expand their energy to take that in and to integrate it. Because yeah, it's just like when people talk about Kundalini, like people doing Kundalini yoga for the first time and pulling up all this stuff that's kind of been repressed in that root chakra, sacral chakra area. If you're familiar with yoga, which most people are these days, uh, then it just kind of comes up, and then whatever emotion that you've been
Yeah.
pushing down really comes up pretty quick. And if you're not ready for that kind of stuff, it can kind of catch you by surprise. And especially if you don't know what to do with it, or
Mhm.
have any way to express your emotions. And so that's why I really love, I've kind of been stepping into this new role and following what lights me up more lately into self-expression through some improv acting
Mhm.
and some voice
Yes.
work that's been really fun. And it definitely, oh my God, talk about self-growth when you're up there and you are totally empty and don't know what to say, and you're like under these lights and on a stage, you're
Mhm.
like, oh my God, you don't have any script, and you're just like, I felt like I did so terrible the other day in class. I was like, that was the worst improv ever. But it's good for me though, because it really pulls me out of my comfort zone. And
Yes.
so I think doing more of those kinds of things, and of course going at the pace that you feel comfortable at, but just continuing to work on yourself, and whatever comes up, give yourself space. I think that's also pretty important. But maintain a healthy body, move every day, eat right, sleep, hydrate, do all the things that you need to do. But beyond that, letting things come through, feeling your emotions, not repressing them, voicing your concerns, or with other people who may be, overstepping boundaries and those kinds of things. And so that's one thing I've learned to do, and over the years, and that has been really great, because I don't feel when I get these when I go through these things, I see other people like getting sick and having issues with their body and
Mhm.
pain. I may get a little pain here or there, or some kind of issue, but it was very short lived. And
Yes.
then it just, and I'm fine most of the time. And I think that's because of all the physical maintenance, so
Well, you
that,
really do
yeah.
all of it, and so it's all connected. So like the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and so it is maintaining that vessel. And like Allison said, really paying attention to what are your needs. Push, don't be graceful with yourself. Give yourself time to rest. We're just a culture that's not initiated in that way. We're taught to keep going. It doesn't matter if it hurts, take a pill, push through it. And that is
Right.
not, that is definitely something that's shifting with this new paradigm and this awareness. So it's, the yang was more the masculine, like, just keep trucking. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you're bleeding, just patch it up and go. That's not happening anymore. That you will be taken out. And I've seen it. People literally are like, you're flatlined. You're done. The divine feminine, or the yin, is allowing, is calling stuff in, is tapping in, like, what is my body telling me right now? Do I need to work in? Do I need more stretching? Do I need more meditation? Am I feeling good? Am I ready to go for it? But always honoring those parts and listening to those parts. And so I have my clients start those dialogues, because we don't talk to our bodies. I mean,
Right.
I was just telling my body the other day, like, you get up when you want to get up. I let you lead. And I woke up with so much more energy than I typically do, because I do a lot of work in my sleep too. But
Yeah.
also honoring those aspects, what we call like the inner child, and not obligating them to do something because, well, this is what is expected of me from mom and dad, or this is what I do to get my needs met, or I've always done it this way, so I'm going to continue to do it this way, even though it's
Right.
dysfunctional and unhealthy and doesn't really serve me. And so we're seeing a lot of that um, change. And either I say you can do it proactively and willingly, or you can take the hard route and it's going to eventually implode anyway. So
Yeah.
you might as well honor it. If that means resting, don't wait till you get sick and you're taken out for 5 weeks. Just take care of it.
Hmm.
And I was famous for that too. But
I was
like you
going to say, I've done it both
yeah,
ways.
yeah, I
I,
know
you know,
both ways.
it's,
Yeah, I'm consistent, like you said,
yeah.
you're consistent maintenance, and that way, like, I traveled a lot this past year, and coming back on airlines and international
Yeah.
flights, being around people, and then clearing such dense energies, I had to purge that stuff. I didn't, I
Yeah.
didn't resist it. I honored it, and I moved through it in days versus weeks, and
Yeah.
that's consistency and that's protocol.
Well, I had this discussion with a client the other day, and she works, she owns a business, and so she's with employees and people all the time, and stuff's coming at her all the time. And I told her, I said, "Are you doing a regular?" She's got some pains and stuff, and I said, "Are you doing a regular like energy clearing on yourself after at the end of your day, even like an energy clearing meditation or something like that?"
Mhm.
And she's like, "No, I totally forgot about that." And I said, "Get back to that, because you're fit. You can do everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do physical all the time and I help people with that, but there's also a huge energetic component to feeling
Yes.
good in your body. And so you've really got to clear that energy, because you are taking, whether you know it or not, you're taking on energy of other people that you're around all day. So especially if you're around negative people or people needing things from you all the time, that can
Mhm.
be really that can really get to you after a while. So again, that's something to pay attention to and to clear,
Yeah.
whether it's a clearing meditation. I know Roseanne has a clearing I think meditation or something like that
Yeah,
on your
like a
website,
guide.
right?
It's a
Yeah.
quick guided, yeah, clearing and protection, because I say you always want to clear before you put protection on, especially if you're going into a big office or you're seeing one-on-one clients. Allison's 100% right. Energy is everywhere. You can't help but pick stuff up. And it's not necessarily negative energy. Like
Right.
when I first started doing hypnosis sessions, I noticed I was starting to get really puffy and achy. And I was like, but I do protection. They're like, yeah, but you need to do clearing. And so your advice to that client was on point. And I say that to my clients all the time. You have to clear your space, clear your house, even if you're just imagining a golden white waterfall or um, um, white light. It's something simple that you can visualize, that you can take the time.
Yeah.
Qigong, it's the same thing. It's a lot of
Right.
clearing energy. Um, they just do a little more movement with it. So I study both. But it is, I say it's necessary when you start your day, before and after you see people, or before you go into also your sleep state, because you can pick up stuff, believe it or not. While you're
Yeah.
sleeping. Oh, I've woken up and I'm like, why am I in a shitty mood? Oh, I didn't clear myself this morning. That's good. So yeah, that absolutely helps.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. I usually do a clearing meditation in the morning and at night, usually if I'm, if I'm sometimes I don't, but usually when things are going right, I do. Um, but so okay, so let's get back to, because I really do want to talk about 2020. And I know there was a particular post that you had up, and I wanted to see if I could find it again. I was trying to find a message that we wrote to each other. Let's see.
Yeah, it was one of the quotes.
Yeah, it was one of the
Channel
quotes.
quote. Yeah.
And if you guys aren't following Rosanne Grace on Instagram, definitely follow her because she puts some great posts up. And I've been encouraging her to do these monthly energy readings because she always kind of does it, in her posts. But I'm like, do a video of that.
I know.
Let's
I'm getting
see. So
that.
why don't we do it here?
Totally.
Because
Okay.
I think
Deal.
2020 bring on the superpowers. Maybe that was one of them, but
I
that
think it
might
was
have been it.
after that. It was something.
Energy has a language to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Learn to listen.
to listen. Yeah. Yeah. So that I love that statement because energy has a language, learn to listen.
Mhm.
Because I had always been really not open, I get not very open to that before, or not, or feeling things that were happening energetically, but not really putting that together that that's what that was,
Correct.
and assuming that everybody else was seeing the same things I was seeing. So, and feeling, you know, so, and then it felt crazy. I'm not crazy, but I just felt like kind of weird, like I
Mhm.
was said this thing to I was thinking this thing and about this morning, as I was driving to work about how like, I have, about a podcast that I'm going to do, another one, a solo one about inhibition. And I made this statement on my last intro, well, actually with Jator. I just released a show with him, and I said to it, I started to mess up kind of when I was talking in the beginning. I said pureenergypdx.com wrong or something. And I just kept going. And I was like, I'm not editing myself anymore. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit because it's more about inhibition. Like, I think the more we try to, we try to inhibit parts of ourselves that are coming out, even though like in the 80s, like we were talking about, it just wasn't cool to be weird. Now it kind of is, but back then it really wasn't. So you really don't want to look weird, right? You do
Yeah.
everything
You
you
don't want to
can to
stand.
not look weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to stand out. And now it's a blessing.
exactly.
Now
And
it's
so I'm having to
there's
integrate that because I'm like, but wait, I was taught I wasn't supposed to think, for people to think I was weird, that wasn't supposed to happen. But,
yeah,
but
that took
it's,
a bit to integrate on that one.
yeah, but it's pretty liberating though, right? So
It
as we go through this, like you're liberating parts of yourself that you've been inhibiting for years. And at the age of 47, it's fun, but at the same time, there's still parts of yourself that are like, wait,
is.
hold up, pump the brakes. What are we doing here? So, yeah. So my point is that, I think that I want to talk a little bit more about how we can follow what lights us up this year and move towards that without inhibiting ourselves or without having to edit ourselves, because I think the beauty in each person is really finding their own essence, their own personality, their own voice, and how they can express themselves. That's what people are drawn to. And I'm just now starting to discover that.
And absolutely. And so I'll sum it up. And again, I'll use you as an example because you're fun. Taking improv lights you up because you allow your inner child to be free, to be seen and to be heard. And that's something we all want, even though, and as you also mentioned, the pumping the brakes, that part of our ego that's like, wait a minute, no, we were taught not to be seen and heard as children. And there's a part of us that is terrified to truly be that authentic and vulnerable in front of others. And you are going straight out of the box on a stage, in fact, to to experience that. So my advice is for anybody looking to integrate at a more consistent or expanded level is to take on those things that do light you up, take on those things that you used to do as a little kid that you were told oh, you can't do that, or you're not good at that, or whatever. That exploration of self creates comfort in your body, creates comfort in your mind, creates that peace and ease. And then things coming at you just pass by you. They don't hit you straight on in the head anymore. And that was what I noticed. It started getting really quiet and very simple and very easy. And it was because I was letting those true, authentic aspects of myself come out instead of manipulating, coercing, thinking, analyzing, judging, shaming, fearing, all these things that have kept us trapped, kept us imprisoned, kept us in, weak bodies or weak minds. And we're done with that. We're done with that as a collective, and energetically, we are done with that as a species if we choose to. And it is very comfortable to stay in that comfort zone, as discomfortable as it can be for many. I know that's alluring. And so that's why I say the more we share and the more that we truly be the examples, you getting up there on stage, I don't care how good or stinky you think you did. The fact is you're doing it, and that energy goes out and gives permission to everybody else. So the more and talking to myself too, the more I share authentically, like one of those posts where I'm like, I said it, I'm out now. Like, I clear entities. Like, I didn't tell people I did this. I didn't even want to admit that I did it to myself. But because I mean, rewind 5 years ago, I didn't even believe in dark energies. I was like, yeah, those are people's egos or shadows or stories or whatever. And I dismissed it until it started showing up. And then I was reminded that I agreed to do this work. So I do clear all kinds of stuff in all kinds of places, in all kinds of countries, and
you went to
all
Europe.
kinds of
Just you went
yeah,
all
I
the
went to
places in
Europe
Europe.
twice, and I just got back from Japan beginning of the year. So it was a lot of clearing. The clearings have gotten easier now. The last trip to Europe was heavy duty, and that took a couple of weeks to recover from that. But that was some heavy, dense energies, and so that allows more light to come in. So again, clearing from the inside out. And obviously not everyone's trained to do this kind of work, and not everybody wants to do this work. I didn't really want to do this work. So, but what you can do to help support that higher vibration throughout the collective is heal those shadows or any stories that you have on the inside. And like I said, the easiest way I've found to guide clients is through the inner child or talking to their higher self. Hypnosis is great if you have the proper practitioner. It's not like traditional hypnosis. It is quantum healing hypnosis is taking you directly to source consciousness. Anything that they show you or anything you experience in the session is always pertained to this incarnation now. So if it's a theme, a pattern, something karmic that you came to clear, your mission, your purpose, I get those questions probably every single session. Why am I here? So there's always more to the story. So start asking and inviting those parts of yourself. Like, I had a client yesterday, and she got offered this job, and it's a lot of work, but they were going to pay her well, and she was going back and forth, and she knows I can muscle test and I can give her the answer, which I did, by the way, but I didn't tell her. And I invited her instead to be her own, a teacher. And I was like, ask your inner child, what does she say? And she can actually hear. So the more you do this, the more you can hear and you tap in. And that's how my clairaudience had started before my inner child, but it made it much easier for me to hear my inner child. And she closed her eyes and she asked her little self and checked in, and she's like, yeah, she wants to play. She doesn't want to do that. I'm like, beautiful. That's the answer I got too. But I'm glad that you got that for yourself. And so we have all the answers inside. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we really do. And it wasn't until I learned to be still and I started with the float tanks before I really could meditate, but that was helping train my brain and my body to be in that state where I can access that all the time now. And I truly believe we all can. We're just not taught that. In fact, we're taught the opposite, to keep us separate from self, to keep us
Yeah.
separate from each other. And when you're talking about energy, everything is energy. There's nothing. So
Yeah.
there's nothing that's not energy. That's like saying the air stops right at my mouth. Like, no, everything, it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
nothing touches me. Like, no, it's all connected to you and you're connected to it. So you influence energies. You also, I can see people, I've done this with clients, and I've taught them, like, you were in Hawaii, hopoponopono, and like, I love you. And I'm like, try that. And one of my clients went to, he was staying at this hotel, and he's like, I was in a shit mood. And he's a beautiful soul. Like, he really embodies this, unconditional love, which is very rare for humans in my experience. And he shares that light. And he goes into this hotel, and where he was going to check in, and he was in a shitty mood, he said. And he walked in, and there's somebody yelling at the front desk, and somebody's arguing at the concierge, and somebody's yelling on their phone. And he's like, oh no, what did I create? Like, being responsible for at that level, I thought
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. And so he worked with me for about like a year or two. And then he backed out of the hotel, did a clearing, ho'oponopono, went back inside, and he's like, the scene completely changed. He's like, I created it. And so
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I don't expect everyone to be at that level, but we would like to be at that level. And
Mm-hmm.
that self-responsibility, like, if the energy feels off, check in. Is it your energy?
Yes.
Sometimes it's not even your energy, but you picked up some funky stuff wherever you
Mm-hmm.
were with
Yeah.
whoever you might have been. And especially light workers, if you are more of that light energy, um, shadowy energy will be attracted. And not always negative. Sometimes it's just too much energy and it's not your energy. But shadowy energy in general is denser, is darker. And sometimes they're just lost, and they want, they see the light and they want to adhere to it. Sometimes it's like, if I can attach to the light, or I can bring that light's vibration down, that's more power for me. So kind of like Monsters Inc. Like, if I can scare them, I can, get I
Interesting.
charge. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But you can transmute it all. Love is the most powerful thing. So,
Yeah. Do you ever feel like media or movies? Well, you and I talked about this not too long ago. How movies or even more so, TV shows are really reflecting some of the, I guess, changes in the dimensional reality that we're experiencing.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh
more
yeah,
and more you're seeing that kind of thing,
there's
right?
a lot more disclosure coming for sure. And I heard that years ago, like conscious media, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I just talked back to source, and source said, that's one of the greatest ways to help people awaken,
Mm,
because
they get
it's
used to
through
it.
conscious media. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
certain movies, Avatar, Matrix, things like that, which we think are entertaining, but there is some multidimensional truth to it. And where did that, if I'm just going to say this, if everything exists in the universe, then who's to say that doesn't exist? Oh, well, that's just made up, or that's just a
Yeah,
dream, or that
that's a
was just
good way to
a movie.
put it.
It's
Yeah.
like everything exists. I've seen infinite infinities, which don't think about it because it'll totally crash the ego. But that's, yeah,
Yeah.
that's been confirmed. Like, everything exists.
Yeah.
They also said to truly love and appreciate this version and this experience of you, because there will never be another one. Your consciousness will continue to reside, but to truly have that, and that was news to me. I'd never heard that, because I have seen many versions of myself, or I should say, my consciousness goes into many different versions. So I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but to have that kind of reverence for this being, this vessel, this body, this persona or personality, it's like you're energy and your consciousness will continue, but you won't ever be Allison again. So
Oh,
truly
that's
honoring
sweet.
and loving that completely.
That's amazing to
Hmm.
think of it like that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about
Uh,
that either. So that was,
yeah.
yeah, it got me. That's beautiful. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. So the newness, what I got for 2020 was, and again, this was also confirmed. So a lot of the stuff that Allison was talking about on my pages are channeled or insights or downloads or visions or things that I'll receive and I'll share. And my whole healing or transformational or awakening journey has been that I'll get the information, the vision, the download, whatever it is. Then I'll get confirmation, a movie, um, a podcast, a documentary, something, some
Yeah.
ancient knowledge. I thought this was all new. And then I was like, oh, this is ancient. This isn't new. It's just new to me. And then as more and more came in, and even the day that I shared, I think it was Saturday, I shared we've never been. We're in a new time. This is um, a new energy we've never experienced before. And then in my session, Source said, because I was asking about the new Earth, and they said this is unknown territory. This is new.
Mm.
You've never been here before. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was using my words almost exactly. And it's not really my words because I feel like I was channeling Source and Source was channeling through my client. So it was just a beautiful confirmation that for
Mhm.
2020, this is unprecedented. We have tipped the scales. There's going to be a lot more disclosure. And what I mean by disclosures, things that we'll call it the former powers that be have kept from us, information, technology, shady stuff, harmful stuff. And that will be, it already is being disclosed. There's, indictments, there's I won't get into it because there's some dark stuff out there, but it has to be brought to the light.
Mm.
And again, it did serve its purpose, I'm going to say, to some extent. But even if that upsets people to the point of awakening, then that too serves its purpose. So there's going to be a lot more of that. A lot of things that we thought were good or like, oh, this person, say celebrity, he said humanitarian. Yeah, no, he's not. Like, there's going to be stuff like that. And so
Mm.
people are, when you and I have talked about this too before, Allison, like when that veil gets thinner and thinner and you start seeing um, all the ways that we've been controlled or manipulated or duped, there's parts that get angry, there's parts that get depressed, there's
Sure.
parts that get despondent or even ashamed, like how could I be fooled by this? And that's okay. That we all played in that arena, and
Mhm.
until we figured out we were playing in that arena, you couldn't get out of the arena. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And so that's why,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, why we're doing this work, to support others in their awakening and their awareness. But we're all, like I said, we're also getting that extra assistance from outside of this container, we'll say.
Mhm.
So a lot of
Yeah.
that is going to be uh, uh, rolling out for 2020. More upgrades. So like
Uh-huh.
I said, the physical, so those DNA upgrades, that's also part of the energy that's coming in. Could be the teeth are connected to the organs, to the meridian. It's all connected. So you might feel teeth stuff, jaw stuff,
Mm.
back
Yeah.
stuff, neck stuff, hip
I've
stuff.
definitely been feeling
Yeah.
that stuff. All
Yeah.
all of it. All of the above.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all
My face
connected.
looks so red on this video, by the way.
No, it doesn't.
I just keep looking like, why do I look so red? I
That
it's
blue
weird.
light. I don't know.
Maybe I
I'm
got out of the sauna right before I saw you, but I should
oh,
be calmed down by now. So anyway, but
I'm
I
so
was gonna just add to what you were saying though too,
mhm.
is I always ask this is one practice that I always go back to is if I get emotionally charged over something, I take a step back and I say, well, why am I getting so emotionally charged over
Yeah.
this? Instead of just going into it and raging. But okay, sometimes it's good to, like, it's not, you don't always want to say, I don't want to get angry or I want to
Sure,
suppress
sure.
that.
Yeah, you
Sure,
want to.
sure, feel it, express it. But then, like, is it really coming from you, or is it something that's being evoked from something else, or somebody's trying to do that, trying to get people riled up, so
Exactly.
this is the thing. I think as we get on with this year and we continue on at the path we're on, we need to continually ask ourselves that question and check in with that,
Yes.
like you were saying. Yeah. So because it will affect your body, it'll affect your health too, it'll affect your nervous system. And so the
And
more
it
that
affects
you do
whole
of that.
like you said, it changes
Yeah.
your whole perception if you're operating out of fear versus operating out of love, or doubt versus trust. And um like one of my clients was, remember the Vegas shooting?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And you may have some people that are going to disagree with this, but this is again my reality. They were in the shooting, they were there, they experienced it. um it created, fear and anxiety and all of that. I had clients that were not even there, just heard about it or saw it on the news, created fear and anxiety in them. They couldn't even get out of bed for 2 days.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And they said, it didn't affect you. And I said, no, I have compassion for the souls that chose to experience that. But again, if you're not coming from a place of responsibility, you're not going to see that it was a choice ever to begin with. You're going to
Yeah.
be like, that guy's crazy, that guy's ludicrous. And going back to what you said, if it triggers you, there's a reason. So asking why, what is this really about? It's never about what we think it's about, is it, Allison?
No.
So when I coached those clients and I asked, what is the fear really about? It's not about, you weren't even in Vegas when it happened. What is this really about?
Right.
Safety and security. You didn't feel safe and secure as a child. When did that begin? Like, you can do this.
Yeah.
We have to do this. Otherwise, we will continue to repeat this pattern. And if you end up transitioning in this lifetime, you will come back and have to repeat it in another lifetime. That's just how it goes. Energy doesn't die until that energy gets transmuted. You can transmute energy into something else, but if the energy is fear or anger or resentment or bitterness, if you don't transmute it, that energy continues to live on as fear, anger, resentment.
Needs to be resolved, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Transmute through our heart. Everything is transmuted through the heart, not
Yeah.
here. God, we have a lot of smart rats.
Yes, we do. A lot
We
of
can, yeah.
intellectualizing everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not that I poo poo intellectualizing stuff. I really think
No.
that there's a good balance there. But that's what you have to find is the balance, because if you're, it's just,
Tell
we
you
have to be
this,
able to connect with it, Yeah.
the biggest brain won't get you into the 5D. I'll tell you that. If you call the 5D heaven, or
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, nirvana, shambhala, whatever, blah, 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 just more egos, labels. None of it's real anyway. But I can tell you this, no doctorate, no no degrees, no extra certifications. That's not how you get there. It's
Yeah.
only going to be through the heart. So, I have a lot. I was a smart rat. I was super smart and super successful being smart and outsmarting other, smart rats. And I was like, that's only going to keep you in the cycle and
Mm.
you may
Yeah.
be top dog in, a pile of dogs, but that's not where you ultimately want to be.
Yeah.
You want to ascend. You want to have that, that spiritual growth, or it doesn't even have to be spiritual, just your soul's evolution, I call it. We're always growing, we're always expanding, we're never done. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, let's get on with it then. And like I said, it's a comfort level. So yeah, I'm comfortable with my PhDs and all of that, but honestly, it's not going to, when you're in the 5D, there's no jobs, or heaven, Shambhala, there's no jobs, there's no status.
Yeah.
Everybody gets the body they want, so they want to be little chubby because they like hugging with the little chubby body. Then they get to be that. They want to be six-pack abs and be perpetually 25. Great. There's no competing and comparing. That is a construct of this planet. There's many planets that don't have that, many dimensions. There's other Earths. I mean, there's so much more that we aren't even aware of, and we're going to be more aware of, if we choose. Otherwise, we could shut it all down. I mean, I have friends and family that I don't share this stuff with. So to those that can hear, thank you for listening. Those who cannot, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
perfect.
And
Just the best.
again, like yeah, I mean, it's whatever you want it to be, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like nobody's forcing anybody to think of things a certain way. It's all about your perception. And if something makes you feel better, if it heals you, if it's for the good of yourself and others, and it helps you serve other people better,
Yeah.
then heck, do it, like just go
Mm.
for it. I am all for supporting that, and the other thing is like we could use a little more imagination in our society. Let's kind of
Yes.
use that imaginary muscle a little bit more, even if it's not concrete. We can't scientifically prove it. Why can't we imagine something that could be
Yes.
unknown?
That's totally your inner child. That is the right
Yeah,
hemisphere. And when you meditate or you talk to your inner child or you're doing improv or
yeah,
anything creative, expression, drawing, art, photography, music, cooking, gardening, playing, that accesses the synapses in your right brain, which is mostly not as stimulated as the left brain. The left brain is, fight or flight, analyzing, ego,
yeah.
survival, fear, and that's overdeveloped, which is why we have so many health issues because
Mm,
this dictates all of this. And so anytime I ask my clients to get into their right brain, it's always going to serve them. They always feel better. They always feel lighter. I can see them. They look younger.
yeah.
They think differently, they speak differently, they respond differently, and it just gets more harmonious inside, like you said, so they can experience that on the outside.
Yeah. Well,
It's awesome.
thanks, Rosanne. This has
Thank
been
you.
wonderful. Thank you so much
My
for coming
pleasure.
back on. Yeah.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure and an
Thank
honor to speak with you and connect. And hopefully we'll connect again real soon. Okay.
you. Absolutely.
All right.
Likewise. Thank you. Love
Thanks,
you.
Rosanne. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.